Welcome to Ability MKE Now on River West Radio. My name is Sue Roscoff, and I am thrilled to be your host here this evening, along with Kurt Roscoff. And we also have Emily Goldmer joining us this evening, and some special guests as well that we'll introduce in just a moment. So Ability MKE Now, we are a show all about integration. We are bringing people with disabilities and people that don't have a disability together, enjoying life here in the Milwaukee area. We all have different abilities, and here at Ability MKE Now, we dive into this topic of diverse abilities, showcasing and sharing a variety of aspects of ability-related topics. The concept of disability has a wide range of possibilities. We could be talking about physical or mental disabilities, the deaf and hard of hearing community, blindness, chronic pain, mental health diagnosis, goal of substance use reduction, and so much more. The list can go on and on. So we are here to bring all of us together, showcasing our strengths and our abilities. As a good friend of ours, Chad always would say, look at my ability, not my disability. So with that, we are very pleased to have some friends joining us again this evening. We have Dr. Isabel and Chef Michael Hunzinger joining us tonight again, and we're so happy to have you back. And we also have Patty Ernest joining us as well. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton over to Isabel and Michael, and if you guys can give us just a quick recap of who you are and what you bring with you with us here. I'm excited. I know what you have to offer, and I can hardly wait to hear more. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton to you.
Thank you, Sue, and Kurt, Emily, Patty. Nice to meet you. We've never met before. Thanks for having us back. We're honored to be here. You want to let them know what we're up to, my dear?
Got the baton. Okay, here we go. Yes, we have a little fun here.
Oh yeah, we got to have some fun along the way.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Isabel, and this is my lovely husband, Chef Michael, and we work together to help people understand more about brain health. From my journey with anxiety and depression, and now being on the other side and understanding the contributors to that, which aren't really focused in conventional medicine, which is what I was trained in as a medical doctor, I now have come to understand the hard way by being a patient in the healthcare system with a quote mental illness diagnosis, that it's not a mental illness issue. It's a brain health issue. And once we understand all the contributors that affect our brain health and understand how to optimize those contributors so that they're working for us instead of against us, then we can all have better mental well-being. So we can focus and live the life we're supposed to live. And when life comes and knocks us down, we don't need a whole group of people to scrape us back off the pavement. We know how to get back up because we know, oh yeah, I got to start doing this. Oh, I was starting to lack in this. So that's what we do. We understand that it's a brain health issue, and we focus so much on educating people about this because the world does not know this.
Yeah. It's really about changing societal's concept of mental health, understanding that it's a brain health issue, not when somebody says something, like as a society, if somebody says to me, or, if I say to somebody, I've got arthritis, well, they don't back away and be like, whoa, look out. It's like, oh, okay, and we can still have a conversation. But if I said to somebody, well, I've got some mental health issues and start talking about that, I most likely they'll start backing away and turning away and like, oh, okay, what's that all about? And so it's getting society and actually the traditional medical system to understand that this is no different. I mean, yes, it's different, it's a different type of an issue, brain health, but it's no different than a physical health problem. It's a brain health problem. So we need to address it in the same way, in the same empathetic way when we're working with people.
Excellent. And that's why I'm so happy to have you back, because I'm excited to hear more. I know we were touching a little bit on a financial topic and how that relates into all this as well. I wonder if you want to go ahead and share your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Talk about, you
Yes.
know, upstream versus downstream first.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to just add a little bit?
Well,
to
you
this?
can go ahead on that.
We work together on it.
I love this. You guys are a great partnership. It's really fun to see.
Yeah, we just want to share with you is that, you know, we understand what one of the long games are with not taking care of our brain health, and that is having Alzheimer's, dementia of the Alzheimer's type. From the research that we've done, a lot of people are just put on antidepressants and sleeping tablets, and hormones aren't looked at, sleeping isn't looked on, nutrition, all that stuff. And Dr. Dale Bredesen, who wrote the book called The End of Alzheimer's, has shown us and trained us to understand that if we don't take care of this, a lot of people are going to end up with dementia of the Alzheimer's type. And unfortunately, women account for 2/3 of the population of Alzheimer's around the world. And like, I understand why, because a lot of us go in our 30s and 40s and 50s with anxiety, and all they know in conventional medicine is to give us a tablet. So what Michael's going to talk about is, we know what the long game is. We know what the bottom line is, what can happen if we don't take care of our brain health, but we want to go upstream and look at all the areas to prevent it.
Yeah. And so, you know, knowing Isabel and I work with a lot of people who have gone into those problem areas, where now we're starting to look at full-time care, rest homes, care facilities, private nursing at home, 24-hour care. And we know from a financial standpoint, because we hear a lot of times when we talk to people about prevention, about doing something now. If you are in your body 24/7, if you know something's not right now, then now's the time to do something about it, because the further we wait and the further we go down there, and if we get to a point where we can't really do much about it, and we get to where we need to have that 24/7 care, the financial cost has just skyrocketed over the last 25 years. I mean, just to give you some numbers, so if you are looking to have basically somebody in a rest home care facility of a dementia ward or Alzheimer's, or even people that are diabetic and need 24-hour care, you're looking at somewhere around 100 to 200,000 US dollars per year on just the care. That doesn't include the medications, the extras that are going on, any kind of food, all the extras that go on top of that. And what we're seeing, and we're here in New Zealand, and we're seeing the same thing here. There's just a recent article about a month ago about families being bankrupted by somebody in their family needing that 24/7 care. And they're looking at these hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And yes, they can last for a couple of years, but if this person, you know, because the traditional healthcare system is good at keeping them alive, but not from a standpoint of quality of life. So now they're living longer, but they're alive longer with a poor quality of life, needing 24/7 care, and the family's having to take care of that. So we're seeing bankruptcies, bankrupt families later on in life, where that should be the time that they're enjoying, or maybe passing that inheritance on to the families and all that. So it can really financially hit people later in life if you don't do something about it now. And that's why Isabel and I are very strong about prevention. Yes, we can reverse. Yes, there's things we can do further down the track, but it's really about understanding that we need to take control of our health before we get into that medical system, where now a lot of times they'll tell you, well, you just kind of got to get your papers in order because this is kind of heading toward the end. And that's when now it's not just the health issues, It's actual financial issues that are really hitting families, and that's all around the world when we get into those chronic diseases.
And so some of the things that we start teaching people is to start looking upstream. What is it about upstream? Well, can you share that story about the downstream polluted lake and then the upstream one more
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Because
So,
before I begin, because
Yeah,
that way people
okay.
understand my
Yeah.
upstream.
well, most people have heard of what's called getting to the root cause. I want to get to the root cause, or somebody says they're going to get to the root cause, and it sounds all great, but a lot of times we don't even, understand what that really means. And what I do with people is I paint a picture of a lake, and just imagine your brain as a lake, and it's the brain lake. And the lake is toxic. There's toxicity going on in there, and you can't actually
It's
swim.
polluted.
It's polluted.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just say it's polluted.
It's slimy and
Yeah,
polluted.
and you can't swim in it. It's not functioning well. Well, we can't. Yes, we can throw some chemicals into that polluted lake and try and clean it up a little bit, but now we
like
just,
prescription drugs.
yeah,
I'm trying to,
yeah.
make the connection
Yeah,
here.
yeah, like prescription drugs, as we know does happen. But now you got a lake that's just full of chemicals. We still haven't cleaned it up. When you get to the root cause, when you go what's called upstream, you have to understand that there's tributaries, there's little other things, there's rivers, streams, springs that flow into that lake, that brain lake. There's contributors to our brain that we have to look at, and there are multiple contributors, like let's say nutrition or sleep or exercise or hormones, etc. Many of those types of things. We have to look at them all and say, okay, which are these all clean? Are those contributors clean that are flowing into the lake? Are they dirty? Are they toxic? And when we identify them, then we can clean up those contributors that are flowing into your polluted brain lake and clean those up. But without cleaning up the contributors, we won't get the brain. We won't get the brain lake clean. It will stay polluted. And that's what we really need to be looking at when we go what's called upstream or root cause.
Yeah, root cause. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't end up downstream
with the badness.
Yeah.
Which takes a lot longer and harder to turn around.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps to understand that concept of upstream and root cause and all that.
So I have a few things to add to this discussion.
Yes, Patty, you go.
Thank you. So what you're saying about, where people end up later in life, yes, that's absolutely true. That with my husband, there was so much taken away from him with the house that I almost ended up without having the house at all. So yeah, so that's one thing. And the other thing you mentioned about the only thing that the conventional medicine knows is about pills and surgery. Yes, I'm here to tell you, absolutely, it gets shoved down your throat. And Kurt, if you will, please, share the story, because that's exactly what happened. Was they shoved those pills down my throat.
Mhm.
So actually, Kurt, do you want to come in? She was just inviting you in to share. If you can just give a brief version of what Patty's all been dealing with. I think that would be helpful at this point.
Yes. So the simplicity of it is a couple individuals leaned on, legal authorities or law enforcement to, exercise some things in like restraining order and, kind of reporting a disruption and so forth, and got a critical response team a couple times around over to Patty, and just started creating this documentation that really distorted the truth and really made a mountain out of a molehill, and getting this right up in front of like a judge and so forth, enacted this mandatory care and whatever, which basically the essence of it is taking the medication. And so Patty's just in this cycle of living a life that, is not her own, and, based on distorted paperwork, just kind of having officials and people in authority making decisions for her. Sue and I served in pre-hospital care for over 10 years. And so we learned about implied consent, where you can just do what you practice and just take care of somebody without needing to interact with them. And that basically is what was thrust upon Patty. Is she wasn't even given the courtesy to make her own decisions. They just kind of did what they want with her, and it just kind of had to be, because it was all facilitated through the court system. And then there's a company that gets involved to do what's called an SMI determination, and that's severely mentally ill. And they threw that classification on Patty, which is not accurate. But we described how, with a hearing, the attorney involved was just kind of building a case the way I was hearing it. It was like the guy was saying, this is just how things happen. This is just what we got to do. We've been doing this for all these years, and, we've done this 100 times, and, this isn't anything new. And just lumping Patty into, their credentials and kind of another person that they're just checking the box. Like, Patty's just another one of these that we've always done. And then, we exposed in the hearing that that they don't even know her, that they never even had a conversation with her. And they're deciding all of these things. They're deciding that something's going to be pumping through her veins, just because of how this process works. And it's a story of how they rely on it to be a process and a system that works that really doesn't. And, so that's Patty's chore now in the month and months ahead, is to show them how they really did an egregious act, against her in the name of government, which is really sad to see for our country here in the USA.
I'm so sorry that's happening to you, Patty. That's all conventional medicine has to offer you at this point, because that's all they know, unfortunately. I'd like to ask you, did anybody ever go over what you eat?
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yeah.
were surprised at how healthy my eating is.
Okay.
In fact, I had a doctor recently do a complete blood workup on me, and she was astounded. My cholesterol is spot on. And I can't remember what the other value is, but there's another value that's spot on. So, yes, there's come as a surprise to them at how healthy my eating generally is.
And did anybody ever check your hormone levels?
Yes, that was part of it.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what happened. I can only say it's getting better slowly. There's more conventional doctors understanding more about functional medicine and integrative medicine and looking at the whole picture. And unfortunately,
that's rare.
That's very rare right now. In 20 years, it'll be normal, but it's very rare. One of the best books that has opened up my eyes and Michael's eyes is the book by one of our mentors, Dr. Daniel Amen. That's Amen, A-M-E-N, who wrote the book, The End of Mental Illness. It says it all right there. And he's a psychiatrist. So he's a psychiatrist practicing this type of medicine. And he uses conventional drugs on occasion because there's certain places for it, but not as a whole. So unfortunately, that is what they do in the system right now, Patty.
Yeah, well, I could maybe understand it if it was justified.
Right.
Yeah.
But it goes without justification.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know you touched on hormones a little bit there. Dr. Isabel, I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit more about that, because I know that's a piece that's that I'm really interested in hearing more about.
I bet you are. But you know, it's all about everybody's hormones too, not just
Right.
us girls, okay?
Yep.
I have hormones?
Yeah, you got hormones. So I'm going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hormones that everybody who's dealing with anxiety and or depression or foggy thinking need to write down and have your doctor check and make sure that they're in optimal range. Now, optimal, is not your standard normal. Optimal is the best range. And you'd have to talk to a functional medicine doctor to get the optimal range. But I'm just going to talk to you about estradiol. Estrogen is a hormone that women make, and it helps us sleep. It helps our moods. In our 40s and 50s, and in menopause, our estrogen is flat. So we're anxious, we're not sleeping. We're anxious because we're not sleeping, and we can't think straight for a lot of us. I'm not saying all of us, but for a lot of us. So estrogen needs to be checked. The next hormone is progesterone. Progesterone, I call it the natural Prozac. Because for a lot of women, not all, and for men too, because I give my male clients progesterone also. Progesterone helps us calm down. It's highest in pregnancy, and pregnancy, it just calms us down and makes us loving, and it helps us sleep. The next hormone is testosterone, and not only for men, but for women. Testosterone helps with mood. And if women don't have the right level, and if men don't have the right level of testosterone, their moods will be poor, they'll be anxious. And it also helps with mental clarity because we've got testosterone receptors in our brain. The next one is a misnomer. Everybody knows it as a vitamin, but it is a vitamin. We call it a vitamin. It's called vitamin D. D for dynamite. And vitamin D is really a hormone because it's made out of cholesterol. And it helps. I've had so many clients that we just correct their vitamin D levels and their depression is relieved. And we now know that vitamin D affects 900 genes. 900, not blue genes, but genes on our DNA. So vitamin D levels can latch onto our DNA and cause us to express certain things. And if there isn't enough vitamin D, then we can express depression. We can express anxiety. Does anybody have any questions before I move on? No, okay. And then the next hormone is DHEA. So DHEA is another hormone made by your adrenals, and your adrenals are little organs that are right in the back, right up here on top of your kidneys. And DHEA, everybody knows it as the youth hormone. And when we age, our DHEA levels go down. But another beautiful thing about DHEA is that it helps us with our mood. And if our DHEA levels are low, that will affect our mood. That'll affect our thinking. So a lot of conventional medical doctors don't check estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, vitamin D, and DHEA, okay? So that's like not in their spam. That's not even in their screen, in their radar. The next one, another thing I wanted to say about DHEA, it's so cool. DHEA gets broken down into testosterone. So you want to make sure that you've got good levels of DHEA. And then the testosterone gets broken down into estrogen. So if you just look upstream at the DHEA, you want to make sure you got good levels of DHEA because that will ensure that you've got better levels of testosterone and better levels of estrogen. Do you know what I mean? Oh, where did we go? Oh, no, fine, yeah. Sorry, we just got a silly phone call.
Are we there?
Where are we?
You're good.
Here we are. The phone call came in. Sorry about that. I don't know how to stop that. But anyway,
Oh,
so
sorry.
DHEA is really important. Then the next hormone, which is even more upstream, that's the mother of hormones, called pregnenolone. Pregnenolone. And she, I call her a she because I call her the mama hormone. And she gives birth to cortisol and progesterone and everything, all of the hormones. So you want to make sure that upstream, the pregnenolone is good. It's a good level. And then we have the thyroid. Ah, yes, thyroid. So the thyroid is right here, right in your neck, in the middle part of your neck. Oh yeah, we're radio too. And the beautiful thing about your thyroid is that it affects 400 functions. 400 functions, that's a lot of functions. Could you imagine if one spark plug wasn't working in the car? What happens?
Not good.
Yeah, you know that because I always say it's the spark plug when the car is not working. So you want to make sure that all, the thyroid's working. And there's 7 markers for the thyroid. I don't mean to get technical, but I'm trying to just give everybody tools so that they can write this down and go to the doctor if you're feeling anxious or depressed and get them checked. And if you're not getting them checked, find a doctor that will and that will walk alongside you on your health journey. So the 7 thyroid markers is, the first one is TSH. Then the next one is free, like a bird, free T3 and free T4. And then there's the reverse T3. And then there's 2 thyroid antibodies. Those are antibodies that attack your thyroid. So, if you've got an enemy that's attacking your thyroid, you want to make sure that you're taking care of that enemy. And these 2 antibodies tell you that your thyroid's being attacked. And the thyroid autoantibodies are called thyroid peroxidase antibody and anti-thyroglobulin antibodies. I know that sounds really complicated, but it's not. Just write it down and take it to your doctor. And then the last one is the last one is TSH receptor antibody. So because I was trained in conventional medicine, I didn't know about this until I was in that deep, dark hole of anxiety and depression. So it was only through my journey that I learned, wow, this stuff is off. And I found a doctor that would help me. So hormones are huge, huge.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I know there's a lot that goes into all of our systems. There's so much. I appreciate the knowledge that you bring with this, because it's something that so many of us just kind of look at as, oh, it's just a big mystery. There's all these things happening and we don't understand what's all involved. And to help get that started, to understand how it's all integrated together and how one thing affects the next. It's such a huge piece to the puzzle. And I know this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg here, but really it's easy to find. I don't know how easy, but it's something people can find out more about, to talk to their doctor, to get the information they need to be able to take care of themselves in the best way possible. So for here, with all of us at Ability MKE Now, I am so thankful that you are able to be here to talk with us tonight. This has been wonderful. And so for Kurt and me, we Hunzingers, we can't appreciate you enough. Have a great night and we thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.